Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. So you guys are in for a special one this week. It's funny. This is the second time we were recording this episode because the first time the audio got corrupted. So, and what we were recording was Conan the Barbarian, or actually, I think it's Conan. I think it might just be Conan.
I think it's just Conan, yeah.
So this is from the Dark Horse run that was in the 2000s, and it's one of my favorite characters, or one of my favorite runs, and that's when I got introduced to Conan. So we originally did the first little storyline in that, which is it's called Frost Giant's Daughter, which tells like kind of the origins of him and whatnot. But since we did that one and then it got corrupted, we didn't want to rehash it.
Yeah, we want to give you guys like actual reactions to something. We want to go back and pretend.
Pretend a bit. Whoa.
But I will say, I will preface this episode saying before that read, I knew that Matt loved Conan. He's always talking my ear off like, oh my God, dude, I read this new Conan. Like, that's cool. Like, but my Conan is like,
all right, Matt, you like guys that are buff, all right?
yeah, he's like kind of, half naked and running around.
That's
with
your
a big
thing, Matt?
sword.
Oily, sweaty, running around.
But, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan the Barbarian is about all I knew. I'd seen like old Frank Frazetta art and whatnot too. It's
Right.
really beautiful art,
Right.
but I didn't know much about it. So reading that first run and really getting, like you said, that origin, that background of him, and just seeing like Conan is like a badass and really funny.
Yeah.
And it was a really good read, and I was really happy to get to this next story.
Yeah. And even when you said, like, when we originally finished the first run, you were like, I didn't want to stop. So I figured might as well not stop. Let's go to the next storyline. And then, if you guys want to hear the original story, we'll, like, reread it. Just let us know, and we'll reread it later on after we've kind of had a break or separation from it. So we get, like, the real reactions again, or real thoughts. But, so the one we read today is called God in a Bowl. And it is basically a whodunit for the whole thing. Which, I mean, we know who didn't do it, but the main thing is Conan. This is like when he's a thief. That's all he like came down from the north, and people were like, "Who's this? Ugly northerner? He's a savage or whatever." And he's like, "Fuck you, I'm Conan." And he kind of does whatever he wants because he's stronger, quicker, faster, better than all the townsfolk, and he makes sure they know that too, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, so he gets kind of pulled into a thieving expedition or a thieving job.
I would say like this, the way that this one starts out too is also like it. The whole story is a setup of like it's like a really big kind of a joke almost too, because it's
Right.
like two how do you say it?
Numidians
Walk into a bar and it's these two thieves.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a drunken tale of Conan being like telling a story to like the people in the bar and the two thieves. And
Well, it starts off with these two thieves that are like in quotation mark thieves. They're like, we're so badass, and they like beat up this guy and steal his money. Like, we're the greatest thieves ever. And Conan's like, and then they turn around like, what'd you say? What'd you say? You think you're better than us?
Conan stands up and he's like taller and like bigger than them.
they're like,
And he's like,
"Oh,
is
shit."
this what you wanted?
Yeah, and so then he's like, yeah, like you guys are like, what did he say? He said like you're like dogs who eat a chicken and then call yourself wolves or something like that. Like
you're just nothing but a couple pups or something.
Yeah, and he's like, you wouldn't, you're fucking losers basically. Like, I'm a real thief. And then they try to attack him for like, dishonoring them, but he like blocks it and takes away their weapons or whatever. And then he proceeds to sit down and then tell the story of how he robbed I guess it's like a priest.
Yeah, he's like, I could kill you, but you know what? I'm going to tell you guys about what real thieving is.
Yeah.
And
He's
so,
like, let me show you how it is. And so he tells about the night before how he robbed Like he starts where he came into town, and this guy who was a priest, I guess, came in on a chariot riding next to him, and he was talking about how, oh, you city folk with your towns and walls that separate you, but you like pour your like shit and piss in the street, and then it shows him walking in on that street, and he's like, ugh, and then like this guy drives by him or rides by him in a rides by him in a chariot, and like all the shit that was next to Conan just got in, like splashed onto him, and he's like, what the fuck? And he says like watch where you're going, you asshole, basically. What did he say?
Yeah, no, he said something like, you fat fool, watch where you're going with that horse-drawn slop bucket.
There you go. And then like it turns out the guy that's in that slop bucket is a priest of whatever god they pray to in the media, and so Conan like, or the guy stops and is like, what'd you say to me? And then Conan's like, I told you, you heard what I said this, and he like called him a fucking fat asshole or whatever again. And then the guy's like, oh yeah, we'll see guards, and like, this is not like a normal place, so rich people can just tell guards to fuck you over, and they try to, and then they try to fight Conan, but they just get beat.
They all get beat.
Yeah, they all get beat, and then
like some of the like town like.
Well, they're his personal guards.
Yeah, and then some of the like town guards are like, we need to stop this going on in the street, so they come to try to stop it.
Yeah. And then he's like, well, Conan's like, I don't want any of this heat right now because I'm like going to rob and shit later on. So, because he went to be a thief. He's like, I need money. I'm going to be a career thief. Like that's his go-to. So, so he doesn't want any heat on him. So the guards come, and before they get there, he like runs away basically. And, but he tells the guy like, hey, I'm fucking coming for you. Like, you better watch your goddamn back because I will find you. And so, then, I guess, he found out who that guy was. He's like, everybody hates that guy apparently because they just told me exactly where he lived. And he went to his house, and he's like, apparently these city folk think no one can climb walls because like their windows aren't barred and their houses are just like left pretty much unguarded at the walls and stuff, because they think the walls will protect them. He's like, but not from a Sumerian. And it just shows him like climbing up the wall.
Barehanded climbing up the wall.
Yeah. Oh, and I should say, we already went over this in the first one, but that got messed up, but we didn't say who wrote this, and who did the art. So Kurt Busiek did the writing on it, and Carrie Nord did the artwork. And Carrie Nord's art is amazing. Yeah. It's like painted perfect. Like it's weird. He does like some panels are very detailed, and like it's supposed to be like, you think of it like a camera where the camera's fuzzy if you're in the middle ground and you're not really being focused on. So like some of the panels are just kind of showing you emotion and they're fuzzy. So you don't see all the detail. There's no like dots in the eyes or whatever, but it looks cool still. And then the next one is, him doing some crazy sword motion and chopping a guy's head off, and it's like super detailed. You can see every, sinew and everything. So, very, very cool, like painted style that he's got. Have you seen anybody like that before? Like,
no.
Okay. Yeah.
That's gorgeous. And some of the one of the first panels of this one is I guess they're going to tell this tale as this old woman by the fire, and Conan's face is in the fire as she's like talking about it, and the way that fire burns and like makes his face was it was stunning. Yeah, it looks so good. Yeah, and he just did such a good job. And I mean, Kurbisik with his with the writing, it was like, I mean, you wouldn't know. You would, if you picked up a Conan book, it's not exactly like this because the writing it's more like, and it's the bubbles in the talking bubbles in the comic. There's like obviously guards and Conan talking, but then there's like this type like on paper. It looks like paper, but it's like it's basically the narrator, which is actually stuff. I believe they're actually stuff from the books. Like those little
actual. They look like typewriter lettering.
Yeah.
Those are actually from Robert E. Howard books, from what I understand. If they're from the actual, like if the stories are from, like this was God in the Bowl, that's an actual Robert E. Howard story. So I think he actually they took segments of his narration from that book and put it in.
That's really cool.
So it's got a real feel of like adventure and fun, just like the old books. And Conan, he's just all piss and vinegar. He like he's like young, strong, doesn't care. He can drink like crazy and still wake up in the morning and kill 40 guards that try to get him or whatever. No big deal. So yeah, he's telling this story. He's climbing the wall now.
And they still don't like the guys that are listening to Thieves are like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, they're like, fucking bull. No one can climb a wall. And he's like, what do you mean? like maybe you can't.
It's like, why don't you shut the fuck up and let me finish my story?
Maybe little girls like you can't in the city, all right? But us, wood folk can climb any of this stuff, mountain folk. So yeah, and then someone was like, no, like I've heard Sumerians can climb like sheer cliff faces. Yeah. So,
and there's also these two very scantily clad women in the bar that walk up. They're like, oh no, we heard of this story this morning when some big muscly man came into town and like,
yeah, but they heard it was 5 men.
Yeah,
like somehow the story by telephone or whatever became 5 men. Beat up all the guards for the guy and threatened him or whatever, but it was just Conan. And then the girl's like, ooh, we gotta sit with you. Very scantily dressed.
Very scantily dressed.
That's another thing. Kerry Nord, he knows where to put the fabric perfectly. And then, the ladies are they're very pretty.
Conan likes the ladies, and they make sure that that's known in the
yes, yeah. Too. So he's scaling the wall of this priest's house, and the priest, or he gets in, and he takes out like 2 guards. Then he goes into like the dude's room and is like, "You motherfucker! I told you I was gonna get you." And then I think he knocks him out or he punches him.
Yeah, he's like, "What are you gonna do?" And he's like, "I was gonna kill you, but I think it'd be more humiliating if I just beat the shit out of you and took your stuff."
Yeah, so he actually takes like his scepter and like just things of his office that actually matter, like to him or whatever.
Yeah, they show that his status.
Status. And so there's like a preceptor or what, I don't know what the fuck they're called, but like a little crown or whatever. Yeah. And so he's got like Conan's got this, and they're like, bullshit. Like you totally, there's no way that happened. And then like Conan like looks down and there's a bag and you can see the scepter sticking out. And they're like, what? He wasn't lying. So,
and this next part's part of the best part because so they're like, oh well, that's fucking crazy. He did that, and then so like yeah, Conan's like, bring some more beer and bring some wine for the ladies because so going down. Yeah, and while he's doing that, the 2 thieves are kind of like smirk at each other, and then they take their weapons out or back, and they're like, not so you're not so big until now that we got our like knives to your throat. We're gonna go ahead and take this gold.
Take everything.
Take everything that you stole because we're the better thieves. And it's like right at that moment, the like town's guards come in, and they're like, "Aha! We caught you guys red-handed with the scepter and the gold. Like you guys are the ones that stole it."
Yeah, and they're like, "Wait, no, it wasn't us. It was." And they turn around and Conan's gone. And they're like, "What?" And they're like, obviously it's you. You have the scepters in your hands. And then like, I guess Conan like either it looked like he replaced their swords with the stuff, but it might have just been like that they had picked it up when they tried to take it from him, and then.
And I like that everybody in the bar like they were like, because they were like, you guys did obviously, and they were like, no, we didn't. It was that guy that's not there anymore. And then people in the bar are like, I haven't seen a barbarian for
what are you
months.
Talking about?
What are you talking about?
There's no Sumerians here. It was just these 2 talking about how they stole all that dude's shit tonight. So all the bar people like vouched for Conan, which was cool. They were just like, oh no, there's no Sumerian here. And then, so yeah, Conan then they arrest them, and then Conan walks out like, haha, good one. Let's And then he's like, here's your money to the guys the 2 thieves that got captured now, that they stole his money at the beginning.
Yeah.
He gives him back his money, and he's like, surely you'll pay for my ale and these ladies.
They took my my treasure, so I don't have any money now.
Yeah.
So since I gave you yours, you'll take care of me, right?
Yeah.
Especially pay for these ladies
These
too.
ladies and the ale, but the ladies. And so yeah, then, we assume Conan has a good night.
Yeah. But before that, there's another guy in the bar is like, hey, Conan, before you have your nightcap, I have a job that I think you could do since you're good at thieving, and I will also pay you very well for it.
Yeah, and it's very similar to the story I just heard.
Yeah.
So then Conan's like, sure, what do I got to do? And he's like, oh, you got to go down to, I think it's Nemulia or something like that. N-U-M-L-I, I don't know, whatever these places in Conan world.
These weird made up places.
We're not going to, okay, for all you Conan purists, if you listen to this, we're sorry. We don't know what the names of the places are, but, we enjoy the books. So let's leave it at that. We're going to say them wrong. Just be happy. So, so he's like, oh yeah, you got to go to Nemulia, and I want you to steal something specific. He's like, okay, cool. So then it cuts to, I guess, the next week or whenever he's in Nemulia.
Yeah, and Conan's doing the same kind of thing. He's scaling another building. He gets to the top and like breaks some kind of lock on a door on the top and like drops down in. And he breaks into the house, and he, basically he's like in the house, and there's like a guard in the house, and they kind of cross paths right over what happens to be the dead body of the.
Well, what happens is, so Conan sees, or there's a watchman walking, and he finds the dead body. Then Conan comes out and is like, hey, and then he realizes, shit, it's a night watchman, because he thought, oh, is this another thief, like, here to steal what I'm stealing, whatever, and then, and then he gets caught, like, in that room by that watchman, and of course Conan could kill him, but then he had already, like, alerted the people when he shouted, and then so, like, all these guards come, and it just, they hold him, like, as much as they kind of, like, keep him at bay, because no one's got their arms on Conan or anything. He's just standing there like
yeah, but they're all like, confess, you did this, obviously. Look at him, he's dead. And there's like
big old fat priest.
Yeah.
The way they drew him was so gross. Like his tongue is sticking out, and he's like but it's like neck's all fat and shit. I don't know. It was like super, I don't know. The way they drew him was really like
he was almost like round, as in like a round like cherry or something. Like his whole body. And
yeah, and then like the colors they use are like a lot of purple.
And purple's like,
like he got strangled or whatever. So, it was good artwork. And so then like some inquisitor comes in, because he just happened to be nearby or something.
Yeah,
that's why I say hi to the priest.
Some kind of high society. Person.
And that's where this like whodunit story comes in, because he's like a Sherlock Holmes kind of guy or whatever. And he just kind of like, well, let's see who did it. We don't know. It could be the Sumerian. Most likely it is. But he's saying it wasn't him, and let's, get to the bottom of this. And the whole time everybody's like, we just want to beat him and get a confession. Like that's how we do it. We don't have evidence or care about law or anything.
He's here. It's obviously him.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
He's the weirdo. We don't like him. He's the guy that did it. So what notes would you get?
So they're all like, confess, and Conan's like, well, I didn't do it, and he's like explaining how he got into the place and like trying to like basically make the time frame line up. And the guy's like, okay, that makes sense. Except but you could be lying about that too. And then at the same time, there's
well, because also Conan's like, I scaled the wall. They're like, no one can scale the wall.
Yeah.
He's like, I can. And then like the Sherlock Holmes guys, well, I have heard of Sumerians being able to scale sheer cliffs.
He's like,
and
my sword broke the lock.
Yeah, and they're like, your sword cut through a lock? He's like, what, are you weak? Like, your sword can't do that? All right. You've never been? It's just like, all the stuff he's talking about is kind of like almost supernatural to them as well, but it's just because Conan's so badass and buff and able to, do feats more than the average man. There's one specific guard that's like, I guess he's the head guard. He really, really wants to like beat Conan and like, crush his bones to get a confession out of him.
Yeah.
So,
he's very impatient about it. He's like, why are we doing this investigation? Basically, like,
Yeah. So everybody's kind of like debating, and they're getting the stories from everybody, and eventually, like some other guy that was like friends with, or not friends, but like an under, like I guess the helper
like
of
another
the priest.
Yeah,
He comes in and he's like, "Oh, I heard about this or whatever," so I came as fast as I could, and he was like, he's like, "Well, what were you?" He gets questioned by the Inquisitor, and the Inquisitor's like, "Well, what happened?" He's like, "Well, I was here earlier. I saw him earlier, and he got a shipment, and then he went back home, and then he like ended up coming back. He wasn't supposed to come back after he left for home." And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, what was the shipment?" And he's like, I don't know. I forgot. Like, I don't know for sure." And it turns out like the priest got a shipment that was sent to him. It was weird because it was like from their enemies. It's like, "Hey, just letting you know we're still thinking of you. Like, love us." But it was supposed to be for like the priest's boss or whatever. It wasn't supposed to be for this priest.
yeah,
But it was for like the next high up dude. So like I guess the Pope or whatever of this religion.
yeah.
And so, but this priest was like so infatuated with whatever it was, because he was like, "Oh, it's got to be some kind of like special crown or diet or something weird." He thought it was. What do you think it was? It was like a diadem or something. Or?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was some like crown of old that was like before like men or whatever.
Well, yeah, because there was this bowl and it had like these metal.
Well, yeah, that's the shipment was. It was like, it looked like a old school, like pot. It looked like pottery, but it's like a metal bowl. When they say bowl, they mean like a jar, like a old school clay jars that they used to have. That you've seen like in Egypt, where they're like big fat vessels, and this had a cap on it, and so they called that a bowl.
Yeah, it would be like almost half the size of a person.
It was like pretty big. And but it was metal, and it had all these like engravings on it. It had like engravings of obviously snakes. I love how they show the engravings. They're like, he thought those engravings were of a crown, and it's like, no, dude,
like, no.
It's totally a snake. But I guess he just really, really wanted to get into it, and then there were like metal bands on it, like holding the lid on, like
holding it together. So obviously there's something in here.
Yeah, if you know what, listeners, if you ever find in like a forbidden zone of the earth or whatever, like ancient Egypt or whatever, or Indian burial ground or something, if you ever find like a sealed sarcophagus with like straps and everything trying to make you so you can't get into this thing, don't open it. That's the lesson I learned from this. Don't open it. All right. So yeah, of course this dude's like, I want to open it. I think it's got treasure in it. And it did not have treasure in it. Turns out, what we find out is that so this guy, the priest, opens it after he came back when he was supposed to be gone, and there's a big, or that's what killed him. Was in that bowl, and it's like this snake god, because it turns out, like, I guess back before man, in the land of Stygia was where this came from. There was the people there worship Set, which is like the snake god, and I guess like the kings, these god kings, they didn't die. They would just like go to sleep, and then the people would put them in these jars, and then encase them so that they wouldn't be woken up. So someone found one of these and thought it would be a good idea to send it. Well, actually, no, it was the high priest of Set, Thoth-amon, was like, I got a great idea how to fuck over those other guys that we don't like. How about we take this thing we found, which we know is like one of our gods, like in slumber. It's going to be all pissed when he wakes up and shit. And we'll send it to, our enemy, and they'll be like, oh, this is nice of them. Let me just open this jar. It couldn't be anything bad,
We shall say while they're finding this out, there's some movement in another room, and they're like, what is that? And they like pull out a guy out, and it's the guy who hired Conan is there at the place too.
Oh fuck, that guy's such a dick.
And
so the guy that was at the bar that was like, hey, I got a job for you, he shows up, and he was waiting outside, And he's like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they're like, why were you outside? And he's like, I was just walking because I was drunk, as you do. I'm trying to not be so drunk when I go to sleep. So I was taking a midnight stroll. And then Conan's like,
no, you're the guy who hired me.
Yeah. Well, and he said like, oh, look at what happened was he had said that. And then he said, oh, and I'm sure this is the guy that killed the guy on the floor right there. And he's pointing at Conan. So Conan's like, you motherfucker. This is the guy who hired me. And I wouldn't have said it if, you had not said I was the guy that killed him. And then basically they're going to go back and forth, like kind of trading, like, you're the guy that blah, blah, blah. And then Conan's like, whatever, fuck this. And he just like cuts the dude's head off, which is pretty fucking awesome. Because he's been sitting there like, he could take all these guards the whole time. He's like putting up with this investigation in quotation marks. And he just like
lops it
off.
One
and
clean.
It's a great picture. You just see like the dude talking, and then all of a sudden the next panel is his head, like same expression, like he was talking, just like, huh? Like his eyes are kind of like, what? And
it floating away from
his body, and like his neck bone looks kind of like a steak or whatever. You know? Like you can see like the neck bone, and then but the meat in the neck looks like a steak or whatever. So it was funny the way that he drew it. Like it was just Conan cutting through some steak or whatever. No big deal. And then Conan started like taking on everybody. He like stabbed the Inquisitor in the leg, who he would have been killed, but I guess he moved at he moved back and tripped or something. So Conan ended up stabbing him in the leg.
Yeah, Conan's done with this shit. So he's like,
yeah. He's like, fuck this. I don't give a shit. They're just gonna kill me. Who cares? I don't care who killed this guy. And so he's like, and then the guy that was going to pay me for this cup just died because I killed him, and he ratted me out anyway. So who cares? So there's no reason for him to be there anymore. So he's like, man, fuck this. So he kills the guy who paid him to be there, or was going to pay him. He like starts attacking everybody. He like kills a bunch of the other guards, chops off one of their ears. It shows him like, going all crazy. And then the guy that was like, oh, I'm going to smash your bones and, get you to talk is like, ha ha. And he like grabs Conan from behind, and he's like, now I got you. And Conan's like, cool. I don't know how they play in, the city, but like, I'm just going to pop your eyes out of your head. And he like reaches back and just grabs the dude's eyes and just pops them. I was like, oh my God. Like, dude just totally fucked that guy up. And did he kill him after? Like, did he actually like finish him?
No, because he's like, my eyes.
Yeah. So I guess they gave enough time for people to be like, what? And then previously they had thrown, like when everybody was like, I saw movement in that room. There's something in that room. They had gone in there, and then there was like nothing in there. Like, stop fucking talking about some other person in this room. We already checked this place out. And the helper of the priest that came back earlier, that knew what the jar was, or that knew that the guy had gotten the jar, was like something's in there for sure. And they're like, oh, is there? Well, why don't you fucking find it? And they like push him in there. And then this fight happened. And then all of a sudden after the fight, or like after like Conan pops that dude's eyes, you hear like, aha, and then the guy runs out of the room and he like falls down dead. And they're like, well, something's in there. And then, I can't remember. Did Conan doesn't? Everybody runs away, right? At that point,
a lot of them do, but I think like the Inquisitor and like one or two guards there, and Conan's like, just fuck this, and starts walking towards the room.
Yeah,
and he walks in the room, and there's like one of those like foldy like
partitions,
partitions, and there's just a little head floating above.
Yeah, and it looks weird. It looks like a little,
almost like a mask, like a
it does look like a mask.
And it's like this starts glowing and stuff, and it's like, come to me, Conan.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck? And we had heard earlier, like the guy said, like, oh, the neck, or the thing's neck was so long or whatever, and it was telling me to come to him or whatever. So, and then that dude died. So Conan like is approaching, and it's like, in like whatever language.
I imagine it's like a Ka from Jungle Book.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably exactly what it's supposed to be like. And then Conan's like, cool, I'll come, and just like fucking chops his head off.
Chops his head off too.
And then you find out it was like a gigantic snake.
Fucking huge snake.
and
With a
he
weird
chopped
god head.
He chopped with a it didn't have a snake head. It was like if you made like a totem of a snake, but like in a totem pole, so the snake was like vertical and cylinder-ish as a head, and then it had like fangs on the mask of the totem or whatever. But yeah, it was like that. It was cool though. And then he like cut his head off, and he was like, "Cool, I'm a fucking out." And then that was that was it. So Conan just Conan's that's him. He's like, "Well, no more pay for this, so I'm out of here, guys. Have fun figuring this shit out." So yeah, but it's just funny the whole time. Conan could have just killed everybody, and like then there would be no one knowing it was him, because all these people here are the only people who knew. So, but yeah, that was like a fun, simple story. It was like a whodunit, which I thought was funny. We just watched Knives Out, so it was kind of like that, where there's like an inquisitor. Well, let me see here, Your Honor. Well, what would you say that this? Just like I just kept picturing the inquisitor talking like that. So that was kind of funny. But yeah. So, what do you think of this one overall?
Oh, I loved it. It's a great, short, simple story, and like I said, I love that it started out as like a let me tell you this drunken like story about how fucking awesome I am, you little numbskulls, and then he actually gets like a mission or a job, and he's like, I'll go do this.
Yeah.
And then the job ends up royally screwed, and he's like, fuck it, just starts decapitating and killing people. And
doing what I do best, murdering.
And then he kills like a god creature, and he's like, all right, see ya. I'm done with this.
That's, pretty common for Conan to kill a god creature and a lot of people. So like this one, it kind of leaves you hanging as far as like as what happens afterwards. But Conan, this is just like the beginning of many of Conan's adventures. So they wrap up in like nice little, or they wrap up pretty fast. I think that's how they did it in the books too. It would be like they're not going to say like, and then Conan returned and bought some turkey and then ate dinner. It's like who gives a shit. So they all start off with like him in a tavern and then end with either like just the end of what the action or like him sometimes they cut back to him like being king, and then like him telling the story or whatever. So because spoilers alert, Conan becomes King Conan later on. So
that's one thing. So with the first one we read and this one, I like that. Yeah, that all the Conan stories are retelling of who Conan was, and like, obviously there's this great person Conan out there, and people finding out about him. Because the first one we read, I'll go back. I do remember it was like
in the original, the episode that got corrupted.
Yeah, it was like these people stumble across like a statue, and they're like, and there's like a guy of royalty there,
like a broken statue, like of time of old, and you're like, who's this?
He's talking to his like little cleric, and he's like, who's this? And
now that cleric, I don't know if you noticed,
he looks similar.
It's supposed to be Thoth-amon. It's supposed to be like, or at least his disciple or descendant or something. But yeah, there's like, this is in the like, I think it was in like the Free Comic Book Day comic before the first issue came out of this Dark Horse series. But it was like a setup where like this king is in, this old, like the new kingdom. It'd be like if you in a million, or no, not a million, maybe 1,000 years, you go to Europe or America, and whatever was here got crumbled and then rebuilt and then crumbled and then rebuilt, and then so then you find like the White House or something, or like Abe Lincoln statue, and you're like, who is this? And it says, this was Abe Lincoln underneath. And you're like, oh, and then some guy's like, I found a record of Abe Lincoln, and he starts telling the stories of it and stuff. But yeah, there's the Thoth-amon guy that's like his advisor is like, stop talking about Conan, like he's not so awesome, like because he was the guy that like basically, I think Thoth-amon and like Set is like one of his main bad guys throughout the whole series because it's like the evil religion, that snake religion. So.
I have a lot of photos and paintings of Conan. He's fighting snakes.
A lot of snakes. So,
but yeah, it was fantastic. I like that they're retelling of stories.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
It makes it fun. Yeah, and I don't know. This just had a lot of fun in it. This episode was, or this issue, or these issues were like Conan having fun. Like he's thieving. He's telling stories in a tavern. He's going out, doing his thing, and even when he's like in peril technically from like all these guards, he knows he's Conan. he knows he's gonna Conan. He's gonna like kill him if they try to fuck with him.
Oh yeah, I love that. Every time, like, yeah, he gets in some kind of brawl or fight, they're always like, "We're gonna kick your ass," or "We're gonna kill you," and he's like, "Yeah, that's not gonna happen."
Yeah, we'll see about that. And this is also like I appreciate because later on there is actually like people that do challenge him that are more like from different areas and different. They really do make this world like I guess Robert E. Howard made it like in this area it's like spoiled fucking like hybrid noblemen that can't take a punch. And then over here, they're like mountain men. And then over here, they're like kind of a mix. So these people are tougher, even though they're still like living in cities. They're not so like unable to fend for themselves or whatever. So it makes it kind of fun and like really builds that world. And I think this series does a really good job, especially with Carrie Nord's artwork, of really building that world to just vivid. It just makes it so vivid and really cool.
Yeah, every single panel is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, whether it's like a really detailed, like showing you like something in fire, or Conan like beating somebody's ass, and you see the super detail of him killing somebody.
Yeah.
Or like just the fuzziness of like what emotion they're trying to show
right.
there. It's really cool.
Yeah. So with that said, what would you give this one, John?
I like it. I want to read again. I just want to read more Conan, man. It's all solid. It's fun. It's not like my absolute favorite comic, but I like reading it. Right. So I would say an 8.
8, sweet. Yeah, I give this one an 8 too because it was like a good, solid. Like this is exactly what you want. It's just fun to read. It's beautiful, well written, well told. I mean, even this one, like you could give to kids because I mean it's a little graphic as far as the violence, but it's not overly bloody. Like he kills someone, but there's not like blood all over.
That's true. It's just there's like a little on the sword.
It's kind of like PG-13 blood.
Yeah, it's like Addams Family blood.
Yeah. Now there's some other parts of this run where they, are a little bit more. Carrie Nord doesn't exactly cover up everything on the ladies and whatnot, or Conan gets in suggestive situations, so that might not be okay for kids. But this specific storyline of God in the Bull, I would give that 3 issues to.
So Matt, what Matt's saying is he would definitely give it to his kid.
Read if he had. Be like, you're 10 now, son.
This is how you learn to become a man.
Yeah, exactly. So Conan Hansen. That's. Here's what you're named after. I would give this. Yeah, I give it an 8. It was just a little bit like the art and everything pushes it over just being like really good to great. And then agreed. So well, I guess that's the end of this one.
Yep.
We'll see you guys later.
Catch you on the next one.
Bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.